That lake is ours. That's what Claudette Hargrove screamed at me right in my face, veins standing out on her neck, the sun blazing behind her like some angry omen when she realized I wasn't going to back down. And let me tell you, when a woman like Claudette gets that shrill, you know you've stepped on something she's been hiding for years. I wish I could say I was surprised, but after 15 years as an investigative journalist, 15 years digging through political scandals, police cover-ups, dirty nonprofits, I can spot a power play from 50 yards out, even when it comes dressed in pressed khakis and HOA pearls. You want a hook. Here it is. The day I bought that lakeside property, I thought I was buying 2 acres of peace. Instead, I bought front row tickets to the biggest showdown in the history of lakeside estates, one I sure as hell wasn't looking for, but I wasn't about to walk away from either. Let me back up a sec. 4 months before Claudette went full banshee in my driveway, I stood in my editor's office, that fluorescent lighting flickering, and slid my resignation across the desk. He didn't even look up. He just sighed like he'd known it was coming. Publish the truth about the mayor's embezzlement, or protect the construction company lining the paper's pockets. He picked the money. I picked my conscience. Cost me my career, my so-called friends, and the last bit of faith I had in the system. So yeah, when I saw that dirt cheap listing for a lake property, no neighbors, no traffic, just water and woods, I thought maybe I could finally breathe again. The first morning I rolled up with my coffee, the lake looked like liquid gold. No traffic, no voices, just wind and birds, and a kind of stillness you only find when you've burned every bridge behind you. I thought it was a sign. I wandered down to the shore, boots caked in mud eyes, stinging from too many sleepless nights. Then I spotted the dock. Not on my survey map, not in my closing papers, just sitting there, planks all gray and warped, stretching out over water that was supposed to be mine. And beside it, a ratty green trash bin with a peeling sticker, Lakeside Estates Community Dock. That's when my stomach did a little flip. I started poking around old habits, die hard, Half buried in the muck, I found this rusty metal stake stamped County Survey 1952. About 100 feet from where my deed said the property line should be. Pulled out my phone, started comparing satellite images. 2005, no dock. 2008. Boom, there it is, right after some mystery fundraiser where they raised $15,000 from the community. That was my first clue this wasn't a mistake. This was a land grab. 3 days later, I get my very own welcoming committee. SUV pulls up, out steps Claudette in her best I'm here to help smile 2 silent guys behind her. She tells me real sweet that 120 families consider this dock part of their home. She hands my deed back with a smirk. Property lines are complicated, she says. Our attorney will review this, but I'm sure we can come to an understanding. And then leaning in almost like she's offering friendly advice. You do have an attorney, don't you, Mr. Rafferty? You know what I mean? The threat was plain as day. I asked them to leave. One of the men muttered something I didn't catch. Claudette laughed cold and sharp as broken glass, and I watched them drive off, dust in their wake, that old fire in my gut starting to burn again. I wasn't writing about somebody else's fight anymore. This time it was my name on the deed. That night I cracked open the laptop, started hunting. Pulled county records, tax maps, everything going back to the Eisenhower administration. Turned my kitchen table into an evidence wall. The old 1952 survey matched my deed to the letter. Boundary hadn't moved in 70 years. And when I dug into adverse possession law, don't fall asleep yet. This matters, I realized Claudette was bluffing. That dock hadn't been there long enough, and neither the old owner nor his son ever set foot on the place, so no claim stuck. Then I hit pay dirt, a 2008 permit application from the HOA stamped denied. They'd asked for permission, didn't get it built anyway. So I sent a formal letter, professional lawyer-ish, outlining the history, the denied permit, the works. Asked for the dock to be removed in 30 days, offered to talk it over like adults. 3 days later, I get the cops at my door. Not kidding. 2 officers, hands on their belts, asking if I'd threatened to destroy community property. I showed them my deed, walked them through the whole mess. The younger cop shrugged. Civil dispute. We can't do anything. But the message was clear. Claudette was ready to fight dirty. Next morning, there's a flyer under my windshield. Greedy outsider wants to steal our lake access. My name's not on it, but everyone in town knows who they mean. Online, the HOA group is blowing up Claudette, spinning this narrative about an outsider threatening our way of life. Some people called me selfish. Others said I didn't understand the community. The usual playbook: isolate, intimidate, recast the problem as the person asking questions. I called an old source, Sterling Quinlan, real estate lawyer, straight shooter. He listened, said, "You have a slam-dunk trespass case, but HOAs have deep pockets. They'll drag it out." When I asked about criminal charges, he said, "If you can prove they knowingly built on your land and collected money under false pretenses, that's fraud. Report it to the county attorney and document everything." So I did. I dug into HOA minutes public records, found 3 years of meeting notes, most of it boring as dirt, until November 2007 approach owner for easement purchase. March 2008, handwritten in the margin, "Build anyway, they won't notice." And the fundraiser, $15,000, collected all under the guise of a community dock. I even found a landscaping contract, $30,000 a year, double what other HOAs pay, awarded to a company run by one of Claudette's friends. Financial reports didn't add up. $62,000 in legal funds, raised only $14,000 actually spent on lawyers. The rest gone. But I needed an inside voice. That's when I met Fiona Redmond, met her by accident at the community mailbox. She'd been fighting with Claudette for years, getting fined for imaginary lawn violations after her husband tried to start a woodworking shop. She wasn't alone. Dozens of families had stories like that, but nobody spoke up because Claudette had the board in her pocket. Fiona handed me a USB drive, files from the former secretary, Lorraine Cassidy. Every dirty detail, every shady contract, even emails like move $8,000 from legal fund to discretionary. Nobody checks the details. I called Sterling. He just whistled. "That's not just trespass, Desmond. That's embezzlement. Fraud. Take it public. Sunlight is the best disinfectant." So I did. I requested a public hearing. Sent all my evidence to the county surveys. Denied permits, emails, financial oddities. The county scheduled it for 3 weeks later. 2 days after the hearing was announced, I got an 8-page threat letter from the HOA lawyer accusing me of harassment, defamation, you name it. Sterling laughed. "He's got nothing. Don't even respond." But I knew Claudette would do anything to keep her kingdom. And I was right. Fiona called nervous, saying Claudette was rallying support, spreading lies, collecting signatures for a defense fund. But she also handed me a list, 18 families ready to testify if they knew they'd be protected. Then the twist: Lorraine Cassidy, the old secretary, offered to come back for the hearing. She had not just files, but secret recordings of board meetings, everything from backroom deals to Claudette's real voice, bullying, covering her tracks, cutting down anyone who questioned a bill. Day of the hearing, man, you could cut the tension with a knife. Claudette's crowd packed one side, all in blue, lakeside strong shirts, like it was some pep rally. Our side was smaller but determined. I walked them through the whole story: survey maps, the denied permit, the build anyway, note, the phony fundraising, the crooked contracts. The room got quieter with every slide. Thatcher, the HOA lawyer, tried to shut me down. Objection irrelevant, but the county coordinator just waved him off. When I pulled up the financials, the crowd murmured. When I showed the email moving legal funds to personal use, people got angry. I made it plain. This isn't about a dock. This is about a pattern of abuse and mismanagement. Claudette tried to fight back, accused me of threatening her, of surveilling residents. I projected every letter and email on the screen. Here's what I sent. Here's what I did. Nothing but facts. She blustered about adverse possession, but the law wasn't on her side. And the county official shot it down in 2 sentences. Patricia, the county coordinator, delivered the verdict. Dock must be removed within 30 days. Full financial records to be turned over for fraud investigation. Hearing adjourned. That should have been it, right? But here's the thing. Once you break the dam, the water rushes in fast. 3 days later, Fiona sent me a petition. Over 60% of residents wanted Claudette and her cronies out. Emergency election was scheduled. I showed up, sat in the back, watched the dominoes fall. People got up, told their stories. One man realized his dues paid for Claudette's vacations. Another family paid $6,000 in fake fines over 3 years. Claudette tried to defend herself, blamed oversight and outsiders, but the crowd wasn't buying it. The vote was brutal, 4-1. She was gone. A week later, the county attorney announced charges: embezzlement, fraud, criminal trespass. The whole mess hit the local paper. Even the HOA's lawyer ended up under state bar investigation. The new board, led by Fiona, hired an auditor, published every document online, rewrote the bylaws. They negotiated with me in good faith about the dock. Real transparency, real change. That's how a community wins. The day the dock came down, I watched from my truck. No fanfare, no anger, just a handful of folks waving as the old rotted planks disappeared. Fiona called that night, invited me to their first real community day. I said no thanks, I'd had my share of crowds. But when a little girl asked if she could swim in the lake, now I smiled and said, as long as your parents say it's okay, the lake's for everyone. That's how it should be. Final twist. 6 months later, I finished my book, sent it to a publisher who called the Lakeside Estate story a blueprint for rebuilding trust. One corrupt leader at a time. The new board kept their promises. Financials posted online. Contracts, rebid transparency, the rule, not the exception. The community healed, the grass grew back, the water ran clear. No system's perfect. People make mistakes, always will. But when folks demand honesty and aren't afraid to speak up, real change happens. As I sit here tonight, coffee in hand, watching the sun set over that quiet water, I realize I didn't just reclaim my land, I helped a whole neighborhood reclaim their voice. That's the only kind of justice that matters. So, what do you think is justice? About punishment, or is it about giving people a second chance to do right? Drop your thoughts below, and if you've ever fought an HOA or taken on corruption, share your story. Somebody out there is looking for hope, and maybe, just maybe, your story is the one that gives it to them.